Hello everyone, welcome back again to the Indian Polity Lecture Series for Civil Services Examination. My name is Shankar Ray and today is the video lecture number 10. So from this lecture we are entering into much more analytic as well as very important topics. The next six lectures including also there are certain lectures of video lecture number 13. I have made it 13.123 where we shall be discussing the various aspects of the legislature, executive as well as judiciary. We have observed many times it happens from these areas questions do come. So I'll encourage each of you to kindly pay attention to each and every details which I'll be sharing with you people. For those who have not seen my video, I'll encourage each of you to go back to watch the previous 9 videos so that you are having a better understanding for the future classes. Now, today's topic would be primarily on the parliament and the state legislature, its structure and functioning. Try to understand. I'm going to focus only on the structure and the functioning, where I shall be discussing what are the structure and function of the parliament as well as what are the structure and function of the state legislature. Okay, so let us start, and I'll also request you people to have patience because we are going to discuss in a very elaborate way, and the video is going to be little bit of longer than usual. So we are going to understand the structure of the Indian Parliament. Considering the fact, in the previous lecture we have discussed about the separation of power, where we have highlighted and we have learned that there are three wings of the entire government. One is the legislature wing, another one is the judiciary wing, another one is the executive wing. Now in the legislature wing, as our country is federal in nature, we are also having the union legislature, which is known as the parliament, and we are also having the state legislature. Now first I will be discussing on the union legislature, its structure and functioning. Then after that I'll be discussing on the state legislature and its structure and functioning. Now let us try to understand our Indian parliament. It has two houses, which is also known as bicameralism. One is known as the Rajya Sabha, which is upper house, also known as the Council of States, and another one is known as the Lok Sabha, which is the lower house, also known as the House of People. And sorry, and all of you know that to the Lok Sabha the election happens, which is known as the direct election, and to the Rajya Sabha it is known as the indirect election. Okay, that means we elect to the representatives to the Lok Sabha, and to the Rajya Sabha representative elects their representative to the Rajya Sabha from each state, that is the Rajya Sabha. Now what is the term of Rajya Sabha? It is total 6 years, but remember the note, in every 2 years 1/3 of the member that will be retiring. So if I can give you a sum of like 6 years, 2 years, 2 years and 2 years, every each 2 years of cycle there will be 1/3 of member will be going out, and again 1/3 of member will be also elected. However, in the Lok Sabha the total term is 5 years, and interestingly it is automatically dissolved. So one question you can face, that which chamber of the parliament is permanent in nature? Remember, it is the Rajya Sabha which is permanent in nature. Rajya Sabha cannot be dissolved as per the constitution. It is the Lok Sabha only which can be dissolved. Now, what is the brief of the member structure? There are 238 members elected by the state MLAs. I have already highlighted you. Plus, there are 12 members which are nominated directly by the President of India, contributing in the various fields including the art, literature, science, service and social. Okay, so for example, Sachin Tendulkar is also a member of Rajya Sabha. and he is nominated, he is not elected. Consider the fact in the Lok Sabha we are having 543 members elected by the general population, as I highlighted, the direct election, plus 2 Anglo-Indian needs to be elected as well as nominated by the President of India. Now in the Rajya Sabha, the presiding officer is the Vice President, which means the position of the presiding officer is also known as chairperson. And in Lok Sabha, the presiding officer is known as speaker. Remember, the Vice President of India also holds the position of chairperson in the Rajya Sabha. So you must be thinking that how can one person hold 2 different office of profit? So there is an exemption for that. So that is the reason why Vice President, when he or she holds the position of chairperson, Vice President is known as the chairperson. And when he holds the position of the Vice President, then he is known as ex officio chairperson. So there's a bit of difference, not very large. So this is a very brief clarity which you need to have. Now, understanding the Indian Parliament, let us go forward. Similarly, the structure of the state legislature, that at the state level we are having the legislature which is composed of legislative assembly and legislative council. Remember. So here is the difference. The Indian Parliament is bicameral in nature, as well as the state legislature is also bicameral, but exceptions are there. Only 4 number of states currently are having a bicameralism. Rest of the states, they do not have the legislative council, they have only legislative assembly, and of course the governor of the state. So in the constitution there are provisions for the creation of the second chamber, okay, legislative council. Now article 169, which suggests that abolition as well as creation of the legislative council. But interesting point you have to note that the state legislative assembly do not have the power to create or demolish the legislative council. What they can do, they can only forward the proposal to the parliament. It is the parliament who will decide whether to create a legislative council or demolish one legislative council. Of course, the governor is an integral part of the state legislature, the unicameral, which is where the only legislative assembly is present, and the bicameral already I have highlighted, which is regarding the both consisting legislative assembly as well as council. It's similar. If I can sum up, legislative assembly at state is equivalent to legislative assembly is equivalent to the Lok Sabha at the parliament, and legislative council at state is equivalent to Rajya Sabha at the parliament. But when I'm saying equivalent, do not misunderstand with the same power. It doesn't have the same power. I'm talking about the bicameral structure. So who are the 4 states currently having the legislative council? Bihar, Maharashtra, Karnataka and Uttar Pradesh. So Andhra Pradesh was earlier there, and it is no longer having the council. We are having only the 4 states. Now, what is the state legislature in structure? Now the composition of the state legislative assembly, it is having it shall not have more than 500 members and not less than 60 members. However, very small states like Goa, Sikkim, Mizoram have been allowed to have less than 60 members. Remember, often you will be asked this question that what is the range? So it is 60, not less than 60 members and not more than 500 members. But there are certain exceptions. The states, very small states like Goa, Sikkim, Mizoram have been allowed to have seats less than the 60 numbers. Now, if the governor feels that Anglo-Indian community is not adequately represented, he or she may nominate one person of that community in the state legislative assembly. Now, that is also possible. We have seen that in Lok Sabha, 2 members are elected by the President of India from the Anglo-Indian community. Here also governor has the power. Now, its members, like for example, legislative assembly members are known as MLAs, member of legislative assembly. And similarly, if it is bicameral, Then the members of legislative councils are known as MLCs, that is members of legislative councils. There are certain qualifications prescribed by the constitution of being elected as an MLA. The candidate must be, of course, a citizen of India and having a minimum age of 25 years. The name has to be in the voter list and shall not hold any office of profit and shall not be a government servant. So these are the minimum criteria and the eligibility to basically be eligible for the candidature of MLA. The tenure of the Vidhan Sabha is 5 years, that is assembly is 5 years, and however the governor may dissolve the assembly earlier also on the advice of the chief minister, and that's basically happens when the governor feels that the chief minister does not have the confidence of the house. That is possible. So similarly, the assembly may have suspended or dissolved when the president's rule is imposed. Remember, we are having also emergency power. So if, for example, article 356 or 365 is imposed, then the state legislature, that is basically the chief minister, does not encourage any power. The entire power goes in the hand of the president of India. So during the national emergency, the parliament may extend the term of the legislative assembly for a period not exceeding 1 year at a time. So after that also 1 year, there will be review and evaluation. If the situation is not good enough, then again the resolution has to be passed to extend another 1 year to continue. So that is also possible. Now, as we have understood the composition of the legislative assembly as well as its components and the factors considering the whole, let us try to understand next. Now, composition of the legislative council first. We have understood the assembly. Now let us understand the council. The council, which is known as the upper chamber or the Vidhan Parishad. Okay, so assembly is known as Vidhan Sabha, council is known as Vidhan Parishad, shall not have more than 1/3 of the total membership of the state legislative assembly, which means it shall not have more than 1/3 of total membership. Whatever membership we have understood in the assembly, it shall not be less than 60 and more than 500. Exceptions are there. So considering a general rule of less than 60, shall not have less than 60, which means 60 to 500. So whatever number is being fixed, so it shall not be, the council shall not have the membership not more than the 1/3 of the total membership of the state legislative assembly, but also not less than 40 membership. Okay, so the legislative council in Jammu and Kashmir has 36 chambers as an exception. Now all of you know that Jammu and Kashmir, it has been highlighted as a union territory, including the it has also the legislature. It has been given the legislature. However, the Ladakh is being completely union territory without any legislature. So how the composition of the legislative councils happens, and that means how the members are being elected and from which and with what is the proportion. So 1/3 of the members are elected by the members of the local bodies. And when we are talking about the local bodies, municipalities, district boards and other in states, we have already understood in the previous classes regarding the local self-government. Another 1/3 members are elected by the members of the legislative assembly. Okay, so 1/3 member from the local bodies, municipalities, district boards and other in states, and the another 1/3 members are elected by the members of the legislative assembly. Now 1/12 members are elected by the electorate consisting of graduates of the state and not less than 3 years standing. So here the active participation of the students also are very important. Another 1/12 is elected by the electorate consisting of teachers, okay, having teaching experience or at least 3 years in the educational institutions within the state. Okay, so here is the students contribution, here is the teachers contributions, and must not lower in the standard than the secondary schools. So the remaining 1/6 members are nominated by the governor of the state. So governor is also having the power. Remember, there is a situation going on in Maharashtra where the current chief minister is not elected, and of course the election could not be possible because of the COVID-19. However, uh, when the current chief minister approached to the prime minister of our country, then immediately the governor has notified that at least the election must take place, and it is being understood, it is being noted that current chief minister is going to be nominated or elected to the legislative council. So of course you need to understand one point: a minister or chief minister can continue up to 6 months of time period without being elected or nominated in the particular chamber, any of the chamber, be it in the parliament or be it in a legislative legislature. So but after within that 6 months of time period, the person must get a seat in any of the chamber, either by elected or by nominated. That is compulsory. Otherwise the candidature or the position of the minister or the chief minister or the prime minister or the union minister will be seized. So that is a brief composition of legislative council we have understood. Now let us understand the legislative structure. The Bidhan Parishad is a permanent house. Already we have known about it. However, it is not permanent like Rajya Sabha, because the Bidhan Parishad can be abolished according to Article 169, which we have understood. And 1/3 of its members retire every 2 years. The retiring members are eligible for re-election. Of course, the qualification of becoming members of the Legislative Councils are similar to those of members of the Legislative Assembly. However, the minimum age in the case of Legislative Assembly is 25 years and in the Council is 30 years. Of course, because a bit of seniority has been introduced. So the state legislature meets twice a year. At least an interval between the two sessions cannot be more than 6 months. That is a constitutionality that the many times you can ask the question that why there are 3 sessions of the basically the budget. So please understand that constitution prescribes that the gap between two sitting sessions either of parliament or the legislature shall not be more than 6 months. So according to the maximum gap it can have 6 months. Within that the session must include. So more than that, it depends on the particular parliament as well as the state legislature as to how many type of and how many sittings they want. So also there are certain conventions. So our current conventions we are following as 3 sittings. The members of the Bidhan Sabha and the Bidhan Parishad elect their respective presiding officer as well as the speaker and deputy speaker, chairman as well as the deputy chairman. It's simply similar like a Lok Sabha, where speaker, deputy speaker, and the Rajya Sabha is also having the chairperson, deputy chairperson, where the legislature at the state level also having a similar kind of component or the functionaries. So the business of the two houses is conducted by the respective presiding officer, who also maintain discipline and order in the house. So that is a more of a kind of business or conduct of the business. Understanding. Now let us come to the, as we have understood the state legislature, let us come to the functions of the parliament as well as the state legislature. Now we have understood the parliament. Now we have understood the state legislature. I have discussed about the both the structure of the parliament as well as the structure of the state legislature. Now one phase is completed. The second phase where it comes regarding the functions of the parliament as well as the functions of the state legislature. So what I'm going to do, I'll be giving you the briefs as well as the components in a very comparison manner so that it is very easy for you people to understand. So in my left hand side, that means that will be probably your right hand side. Kindly follow that here is the parliament, and here in this particular side we are having the state legislature, and there are various functions I'll be discussing in this manner so that you have a better understanding. So first component or the first function is the legislative function. Okay, let us try to compare with the legislative functions of the parliament as well as legislative functions of the state. Now the parliament legislates on all the matters mentioned in the union list as well as concurrent list. Remember, already we have discussed about the 3 types of list: union list and concurrent list as well as state list. So parliament has the power to legislate into the matters mentioned in the union list as well as in the concurrent list. Similarly, legislative function, the assembly or the legislature at the state has also the power to legislate on the state list and also often concurrent list. However, it is to be noted that when there is already suppose for example on education, there is already a law which is being prepared by the parliament and passed, and if the same kind of law is present in the state, then the parliamentary law will always prevail over the state law. So that is where the parliament is always powerful than the state legislature. In the case of concurrent list, where the state legislature and the parliament have joint jurisdictions, the union law will always prevail. I have already highlighted. So however, the parliament can anytime enact a law adding to or amending or varying or repealing a law made by a state legislature. That is also possible, that any law on the concurrent list which is made by the state legislature can also be amended or repealed by the union legislature, that is parliament. Now a bill passed by the legislative assembly is sent to the legislative council, which has to pass it or return it with recommendations to the legislative assembly. Now I'll be discussing briefly on the role of the Rajya Sabha in terms of the bills, but interestingly in the legislative functions of the legislative council, they do not have the power, they can only recommend. Okay, so this is the brief idea, and I'll be discussing the role of the Rajya Sabha in the bill, where there is a little bit of difference between the council's roles in the particular bills and the Rajya Sabha's role in the passing of the bill. Now we'll try to understand next. Here the parliament can also pass laws on the items in the state list under the following circumstances. Number one, if emergency is in operation or any state is placed under the President's Rule Article 356. Remember, Article 356 is the President's Rule, and on what ground? Please note down, the ground has to be failure of the constitutional machineries. There are two types of President's Rule. Number one, President's Rule, Article 356, just reverse it, Article 365. Article 356, the ground has to be the failure of the constitutional machineries, and Article 365, when a state will defy the orders of the center, then also it encourages the ground to impose the President's Rule. But however, many times we see the President's Rule based upon Article 356, and Article 365 and its usability is very rare. So as per Article 249 of our constitution, the parliament can make laws on items on the state list if the Rajya Sabha passes. Remember, House of the States. Okay, if the Rajya Sabha passes a resolution by two-third majority of its members are present and voting, then that is necessary for the parliament to make laws on any item enumerated in the state list in the national interest. To simplify, what does Article 249 suggest? Now, for example, let's say the local law and order which is in the hand of the state list, and for example, due to any kind of circumstances, Rajya Sabha of the parliament feels that this law has to be, the law and order item has to be regulated and administered by the union government. So what is the procedure? So they have to pass a resolution in the Rajya Sabha with not less than two-third members of present and voting. Then only the list can be of the particular state can be transferred to the parliament. So remember, it doesn't mean that the law and order of every state will be changed. It will be only specific to that particular state. Now, considering the legislative functions of the state, if the legislative assembly passes the bill once again, either with the recommendations of the council or without those, it shall be deemed to have been passed by both the houses. So here, legislative council is basically a suggesting body. Of course, you know that suggestion doesn't mean that you have to suggestion doesn't mean a binding nature. As regards the money bills, this can be introduced only in the legislative assembly. Similarly, the money bills, according to Article 110, 111, 111 also regarding the financial bills, and 117 also, so those can be only introduced in the Lok Sabha, as well as for the state perspective it is assembly. After the assembly passes the money bill, it goes to the legislative council, which has to pass it or return the bill to the assembly, which its recommendation within 14 days and receipt of the bill. So similar kind of Rajya Sabha also we are having, that Rajya Sabha gets a time period up to 14 days. Within the 14 days, the Rajya Sabha can return the bill, or the Rajya Sabha cannot give any recommendations. So whatever may be the circumstances, if that happens, then automatically the bill will be deemed to be presented in front of the President of India. Similarly, here the bill has to be deemed to be presented before the governor of the particular state. Now, legislative functions further we are trying to understand. As per Article 253, it can pass laws on state list items if it is required for implementation of international agreements or treaties with foreign powers. Remember, we have already known that all the international treaties, agreements, or foreign list, those are prescribed under the union list. So if that also conflicts with the state, then definitely it can pass a law which is also emulated in the state list, affecting those union list, or the especially the implementation of the international agreements. Now according to article 252, if the legislature of two or more states pass a resolution to the effect that it is desirable to have a parliamentary law on any list, any item listed in the state list, the parliament can make law for those states. Remember, here it is can make laws. Now the state cannot direct the parliament. The state can only pass a resolution, and that will be a part of a suggesting or a request to the parliament. So it is up to the parliament to take a decision whether it wants to implement the law, or whether it wants to promulgate the law or it doesn't. Now considering the legislative functions of the state, even if the assembly rejects the recommendations of the council, it will be deemed to have been passed by the both the houses. Once the bill is passed by the legislature, it is sent to the governor for his or her assent. Now he or she cannot withhold assent on the money bill, but can send back an ordinary bill for the reconsideration. Now one of the special power of the governor, which is that either it can reject the bill, of course if it is a money bill then it has to give assent, or what governor it can do, the governor also can keep the bill for the consideration of the president. We'll try to understand under what circumstances the governor can keep the bill for the president's assent. So that is also one of the very interesting, where we have also seen it's a bit of gray area, as we know that the governor is also appointed by the union government, especially the president of India. So many times it is also conflict within the chief ministers as well as the governor in terms of the passing of the bill and converting into a law. Now uh, as we have understood and completed the legislative functions, now let us talk about the executive functions, especially the control over the executive. And when we talk about the executive, here executive means the chief minister. At the state level it is chief minister plus council of minister, and at the union level it is the prime minister with the council of ministers. Of course we are having three wings. We have understood the legislative wings and its functions of the parliament as well as state legislature. Now we are going to understand the executive wing. Now in the parliament form of the government, executive is responsible to the legislature, of course. Hence the parliament exercises control over the executive by several measures. By a vote of no confidence, okay, in the parliament, it can remove the cabinet. That means it can remove the entire prime minister as well as the council of minister out of the power. It can reject a budget proposal or any other bill brought by the cabinet. A motion of no confidence is passed to remove a government from the office. Remember, when there is a budget to be presented or money bill is to be presented in the Lok Sabha, and while discussing and voting on upon that particular bill in Lok Sabha, if it fails to get the requisite number of majority, it is deemed to be understood that the current government is lacking the confidence. So a no confidence motion will be passed, and hence the prime minister and the entire council of ministers will be bound to resign. If the prime minister also resigns, then automatically the entire council of ministers fails. So the member of parliaments, MPs, can ask questions to the minister on their omissions or commissions. Any lapses on the part of the government can be exposed in the parliament. Already we have understood in the question and rounds and other different types of round. I'll suggest you people, sometimes if you have time, and please find out some time to watch the Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. Not to exactly listen. If you can listen in a detail, that is very good, but at least you should have an understanding how does the proceedings happen. At the executive functions, now state legislature keeps control. Similar functions like Lok Sabha and Lok Sabha we have understood. The council of ministers is responsible for the Vidhan Sabha collectively. It remains in the house so long it enjoys the confidence of the house. Of course, the council of ministers is removed if the Vidhan Sabha adopts a motion of no confidence. Moreover, the state legislature keeps a checks on the government by asking questions. So similar kind of functions we have also for the Lok Sabha as well as for the at the parliament level, as well as for the we have understood state level. Now next, there are a couple of types of motions. adjournment motions, so allowed only in the Lok Sabha, the chief objective of the adjournment motion is to draw attention of the parliament to any recent issues of urgent public interest. Okay, so remember this term, adjournment motion is for the urgent public interest. Whatever topic or debate is going on, so if the adjournment motion is passed, then the rest of the things will be kept aside, and immediately it has to be, but provided it has to be only on the urgent public interest. It is considered an extraordinary tool in the parliament as a normal business is affected. So the parliament appoints committee on the ministerial assurance that sees whether the promise made by the ministers to the parliament are fulfilled or not. Now the executive functions already I have discussed in the previous slides, kindly refer to that. Now let us understand the censure motion. Censure motion means a censure motion is moved by opposition party to basically censure the government, which is also strongly disapproving any policy of the government. It can be moved only in the Lok Sabha. Immediately after a censure motion is passed, the government has to seek the confidence of the House. Remember, there is a two types. One is no confidence motion, one is confidence motion. So the no confidence motion will be presented before the Lok Sabha by the opposition party to basically show the entire parliament the government doesn't have confidence. Now similarly, to oppose the no confidence, the government has to bring the confidence motion to basically show that they are having confidence to run the government. Okay, so I hope this is clear. Now cut motion. What is a cut motion? A cut motion is used to oppose any demand in the financial bill brought by the government. If they are having certain recommendation, they can say that they can also start and initiate the cut motion. Similar type of functions we can also see in the kind of executive role at the state level. Now, as we have understood the legislature functions and as well as the electoral function, now let us try to understand the legislative functions as well as executive function. Now here we are going to understand the electoral functions at the parliament level as well as the electoral functions at the state level. Now the parliament takes part in the election of the president and vice president. All of you know that president and vice president are indirectly elected, they are not directly elected. Okay, so but the electoral college that elects the president comprises of the elected members of the both the house. Remember, so in Lok Sabha there are 2 members which are nominated, and in the Rajya Sabha there are 12 members which are nominated. Interestingly, no nominated members can take part in the presidential election. It has to be only the elected members of the both the houses. This is during the kind of election to the president of India. Now at the same time, when president needs to be impeached and removed from his position or her position, then the resolution has to be passed by the Rajya Sabha, agreed to by the Lok Sabha also. Okay, so that is also one of the perspective which we are having. At the same time, on the state legislature perspective, the elected members of the legislative assembly are members of the electoral college for the election of the president of India. Now here all the elected members of Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha plus all the elected members of the state legislature also takes part in the election of the president of India. Now the members of the Vidhan Sabha also elect the members of the Rajya Sabha from their respective states. Moreover, they elect 1/3 members of the legislative council of their own state. So that is also one of the conventions which we have seen. Now, trying to understand what are the functions of the parliament as well as the state legislature, considering the fact of the constitutional amendments which previously also we have understood, as in the constitution it is mentioned in the article 368 of our constitution, the power and the procedure of the parliament to amend the constitution. Now to amend it, already I have highlighted in the previous lectures. Now again I am repeating, the parliament has the power to amend the constitution. The state, they do not have any power to amend the constitution. Both the houses of the parliament have equal powers as far as the amending constitution is concerned. Okay, so both the houses, Lok Sabha as well as Rajya Sabha. And there are also a couple of gray areas. Can an ordinance be passed to amend the constitution? The answer is no. Of course the constitution has not given a clarification on that, but the answer is no. At the state level, a constitutional amendment requires the support of the special majority if the amendment is related to the special majority. For example, the passing of the GST bill. So not only it has passed with the requisite special majority at the parliament, but also it is also passed at the state level with a simple majority, but minimum 50% of the total states of our country also has to pass it. Okay, so amendment will have to be passed in both the Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha for them to be effective. So this is the amending power which you have understood. So here the role of the state in terms of the constitutional amending power is only when the amendments are in special in nature, where their involvement is required. So they cannot initiate anything, but however they can only pass the constitutional amendment at their own assembly with a simple majority. Then there are certain amendments can be put into effective. Now let us try to understand the financial functions of the parliament as well as the state legislature. The parliament is the ultimate authority when it comes to the finances. The executive cannot spend a single pie without parliamentary approval. Already we know that. So union budget, of course, which is prepared by the cabinet, is submitted for the approval of the parliament. Once it is approved, union budget is basically, you have to understand, union budget is the word is a type of a convention. In constitution it is not mentioned as a union budget. Okay, so in constitution it is mentioned as annual financial statement. Now there are two types of standing committee on the financial matters. One is public accounts committee and the other one is estimate committees of the parliament, to keep a check on how the executive spends the money granted to it by the legislature. Okay, so regarding the parliamentary committee, I have I'm going to discuss in a couple of next slides. You can also refer to that. In the financial functions, state legislature is the ultimate authority. Similar kind of functions where we are also having a state budget, where the state legislative assembly has to approve that particular state budget, so that the state executive, which is chief minister plus council of minister, they can spend the money. Now let us try to understand the judicial functions. We have understood the executive function, we have also understood the legislative function. In the meantime, we have also understood the different types of like finance and as well as the constitution functions. Now the third wing of the judicial functions, already we know that our judiciary is not federal in nature, it is basically independent and unit in nature. So remember, in case of a breach of the privilege by the members of the house, the parliament has the punitive powers to punish them. A breach of privilege is when there is an infringement of any of the privileges enjoyed by the MPs. Now the judicial functions, when we are trying to understand in the parliamentary system, the legislative privileges are immune to the judicial control. Now the power of the parliament to punish its members is also generally not subject to the judicial reviews. So other judicial functions of the parliament include the power to impeach the president, the vice president, the judges of the Supreme Court, high courts and auditor general of our country. So here the state legislature do not have exclusive power, be it a judge of high court or a Supreme Court of India or chief justice of high court or Supreme Court of the India. Then it is the parliament, it can pass the resolution to remove or impeach it. Okay, so that's a brief of what we have understood regarding the judicial functions of the parliament as well as the state legislatures. Now other functions, we are also having some certain other functions, like for example, issues of national and international importance are discussed in the parliament. The opposition plays a very important role. Of course, it has to always check on the activity of the government. A parliament is sometimes talked as a nation in miniature, where a lot of debate that happens. The parliament has the power to alter, decrease or increase the boundaries of the state or UTs, that is in accordance to the article 2 of our and article 3 of our Indian constitution. The parliament also functions as an organ of the information. The ministers are bound to provide, okay, the ministers are bound to provide information in the house when it is demanded by the members of the particular parliament. So with that, we have tried to understand the structure of the parliament as well as the state legislature, as well as the functions of the parliament as well as the state legislature. Now there are also so many other things. Because of the paucity of the time, I am not able to describe each and every point in this particular video. Like for example, election procedure of the member of parliament, what are the weightage of the vote system. There are so many other things which are left. I'll prescribe you people. I have already highlighted the books referred books like M. Lakshmikant, D.D. Boswell, as well as Dr. B.L. Fadia. Also, you are going to receive certain notes, so kindly refer to that. Those are merely factual informations. You just need to remember a couple of points. I have whatever important topics are there for the to discuss regarding the structure and functions, I have already explained in this particular slides. I'd request each of you to again go back as well as pause the videos and try to note down each and every point, so which are very important and often the questions do come. With that, let me also thank you for watching this video. I hope you have enjoyed and learned many things. Please feel free to ask any kind of questions if you are having. I'm looking forward to see you again. Thank you so much.